Hi and welcome to Making All the Plans. This is the second video in the series on preparing for the quarter ahead. If you missed the first video where I walk through reflection and future visioning, I'll link it in the description box below. But in this video, I am diving into time, goals, and projects. Ideally, I like to break down my available time during step 2, future vision and planning, but ironically, I ran out of time before the HB90 bootcamp kickoff call. And that just goes to show how important this step is, because every time I go through it, I realize how little time I actually have. The first step in assessing my time is outlining what a typical day looks like. But for me, typical is a moving target. Most days vary wildly depending on what time I finish work, what activities the kids have in the evenings, or what other events pop up on the calendar. Balancing a full-time job, my kids' schedules, this YouTube channel, and everything else that comes with life is no small feat. Having a clear framework for how I want to structure my time makes everything run a little smoother, even when the unexpected happens. To start, I time block my week using a color-coded system. Orange is for work, pink is for making all the plans, gray for routines, blue for workouts, green for household tasks, and purple for bigger home projects. I know that as I start to implement this plan, that I will have to tweak and change things. I have just started putting my routines and resets into place that I sketched out in the last quarter, so I know that this will be a work in progress. Speaking of work, I do start by putting my working hours into my plan for the week. I also know that I need to drop my daughter off at 7 o'clock every morning, so I also take that into consideration. Then I come back in and drop in some of the making all the plans time blocks. Videos are typically released on Monday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday, so I want to make sure that I leave a time block on those mornings so that I can wrap up any editing that needs to be done and ensure that those videos get published. I know that I like to edit videos in the morning, so I am putting task blocks in on most of the other days as well, but I have to keep in mind everything else that needs to happen. As of now, I go into work on at least Tuesdays and Thursdays. I am planning on going into the office a little bit later on Thursdays, but that tends to work out because I end up working later in the afternoon as well. If you saw my review, you'll know that I am trying to protect my non-working hours a little bit better. Those gray time blocks are for getting ready and getting out the door in the morning. I am really trying to limit that to an hour each morning. I don't know about you, but I could probably putter around my house all day doing little tasks here and there. So I'm really trying to stay focused on those things that will get me out the door and set me up for a productive day ahead. Then I'll come back in and drop in my exercise time blocks. I am not planning on getting up before 5 a.m. on any day. I even am debating on whether or not that Thursday blue time block just disappears. We'll just have to see how these mornings go, and I will adjust from there. I do have a hard time on weekends because I like to sleep in. Even though my body doesn't even really let me sleep in anymore, I do like to sleep in and I like the idea of sleeping in. But putting this down on paper and having a wake up time for the weekend is a little depressing for me. So, again, this is a work in progress. It will always be a work in progress. I do tend to map this out more than once a quarter so that I can tweak where needed. This purple time block is for a bigger home project, such as pressure washing the exterior of the house or cleaning out the basement. Anything that takes a fairly big chunk of time and isn't done on a regular basis, or that can be incorporated into my weekly home blessing. And this time block is very important to me as I move forward because those are always the projects that get put on the back burner over and over again. And I really want to maintain my house so that we have fewer problems down the road. This is also a time block that will have to be shiftable because if my husband and I are both working on a project, I know that he likes to get started earlier in the day than I do on things like that. So we will just shift that earlier in the day. Also, those projects tend to be the physical projects like replanting the bushes or mulching, things like that. So I wouldn't necessarily need a workout that day either. These green time blocks are for things like picking up the groceries, meal prep, eating, any weekly home blessing task that I also need to incorporate during the day. I am hoping that I have drawn enough in because, again, there just is not enough time in the day to accomplish everything that I want to accomplish. And I'm really trying to not let things fill time that I don't have. I know that any project that I work on can grow to whatever time I allow for it to grow to. I know that if I am dusting, for example, I easily get sidetracked and start cleaning out a drawer. So I really need to focus on getting a task done that I want to get done and limit it to that time block that I have allotted for it. Then I'll come back in and fill in the rest of the space with making all the plans task blocks. I am hoping to get on a more regular schedule once I get a little bit ahead, then be able to narrow these time blocks down a little bit for making all the plans so that I either have a little bit more free time or I have more time to spend on home projects. Once I've mapped out an ideal schedule, I compare it to my actual time commitments. This gives me a realistic estimate of how much time I truly have available each day, week, and month of the quarter. So, my plan is to figure out how many task blocks I have for making all the plans tasks, which are pink, and those bigger home projects that are purple. So to my right, I have my Google Calendar pulled up so that I can see when track meets are, when soccer practices, or if I am out of town any of these days or weeks. This first week of April is an ideal week, and we don't have any soccer games, any track meets, and I should be in town the entire week. But I will just continue to go through and match my calendar to the time blocks and estimate how many available time blocks I will have each day, and then I'll come back in and add them up at the end. June is a good example of why I really only plan out in depth 1 month at a time. I know that at some point in the month of June, we will be taking a family vacation, at least one. So I don't know what of those time blocks are going to end up needing shifted. I do go back in and add up all of the total time blocks for each week. And I do this so that when I'm looking ahead, I can easily see which weeks I will need to work ahead for in order to hit all of my goals around publishing 3 to 4 videos per week. As part of another course, I recently wrote out everything that's been weighing on my mind, every little to do, responsibility, or unfinished project. If you haven't done this in a while, I highly recommend it. Getting everything down on paper lets you make conscious decisions about what's truly important and what needs to be put on hold. With my time mapped out and my master list in front of me, I'm finally ready to define my goals for Q2. Now that I have a clear understanding of my time constraints, I can set goals that are actually achievable. My focus for making all the plans remains on growth and consistency. The difference this quarter is the specific numbers I want to hit. YouTube remains my top priority, but I also want to get more comfortable posting to Instagram on a regular basis. I do like to lay out good, better, best targets for each goal. The good goal, I like to set it so that it is reasonable. The better goal is a stretch, and the best is usually fairly difficult to reach. So for YouTube posts, my good, better, best are 3 per week, 4 per week, and 5 per week. And I am really trying to stick to that 4 per week sweet spot unless there's something bigger going on, such as the start of a new quarter. For YouTube subscriptions, I aim for 10% growth for good, 15% for better, and 20% for best. For YouTube comments and YouTube ads, I'm really not sure what to expect here yet. I'm trying to build a community. I just got monetized recently. So these are just kind of placeholders for the quarter. So we'll just see how it goes over the next few months. And then hopefully I'll be able to set more relevant goals. For Instagram, again, these are just small goals. 2, 3, or 4 times a week I want to post. 4% growth for good, 8% growth for better, and 12% growth for best. Again, I'm still just watching and trying to figure out what the interactions and views really mean and if that is really the items that I want to track. When it comes to personal goals, I'm still not comfortable making my primary goal about the number on the scale. Instead, I want to focus on consistency, moving my body more and eating more meals at home or from home rather than relying on takeout. I will flip back and forth between the different goals pages as I'm working through this. I want to mirror how I laid out goal number 1, but I'm also looking at how I worded and what my actual goals were for last quarter. So just a little flipping around, but I want to continue to build consistency into routines and focus on healthy choices. So for exercise, my good, better, best would be 4 times a week, 5 times a week, or 7 times a week. I want to close my Apple rings those same amount of times. And then for meal planning and eating out and all of that, I actually did, or my family actually did pretty good this last quarter. The end of March got a little rough because it was my birthday and my son's birthday, and now I am traveling. So there was more eating out for sure. I'm not going to beat myself up over that because for my birthday, I did not want to cook. But I do think that the goals that I'm setting are achievable. For lunch out, the good would be 1 time a week. Best would be no times a week. And then for dinner out or takeout with my family, it would be 2 times per week for good, 1 time a week better, and 0 for best. And this really comes down to meal planning. For my home goals, my biggest focus is refreshing and improving both the interior and exterior of our home by tackling key maintenance and enhancement projects. This is the area where I struggle most with setting good, better, best targets, but here's what I landed on. Good would be to just get the basement cleaned out. Better would be to clean out the basement and complete all the spring home maintenance tasks. And best would be all of that, plus finding a contractor to fix, replace, or expand the driveway. Once I have my goals, the next step is breaking them into manageable projects. For making all the plans, I want to continue researching trends and analyzing analytics to plan upcoming video topics, produce YouTube videos consistently, post regularly to Instagram, and plan and take a retreat to mass produce some content. This last project is a big one for me, and as you're watching this, I am currently on a trip, but it is not for producing content. I do need time to step away, think, and record in a quiet place. Because even when I have downtime at home, all those little to-dos staring at me in the face make it hard to do the deep thinking work that keeps this channel fresh and relevant. My personal goals are harder to break into distinct projects. Instead, I'll be using trackers in my planner to track both movement and successfully avoiding takeout. My home projects is the area that really has me worried. Spring is already a busy season, and on top of that, we have 2 weekends completely booked with soccer tournaments. That doesn't leave much time for major house projects. And here's what's on that list. Clean out the basement in preparation for the remodel. Find a contractor to fix, replace, extend the driveway. Pressure wash the siding, porch, and sidewalk. Hook up the hoses. Clean up the flower beds and lay fresh mulch. Swap out the bushes. Plant the vegetable garden and clean the deck. Seeing it laid out like this makes it clear. I may need to take some time off from work to get everything done. Otherwise, some of these projects may wait until summer. Now that my goals and projects are outlined, the next step is to break them down into bite-sized tasks. This is where planning really comes to life, turning big picture goals into actionable steps that fit into my real life schedule. When completed, these tasks move me closer to achieving my bigger vision. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by ambitious goals, break it down into smaller and smaller tasks to make it feel more manageable. If you're doing your own Q2 planning, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments what's your biggest goal for the quarter and what projects are you most excited for. And of course, if you don't want to miss the next step in this process, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll be the first to know when the video goes live. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.